thank you for being here.
Of course, always.
At our straight up conversation.
Yes.
This is a time for us to really get background on the folks that make the city, right? So I wanted to start with talking about your time in Gary.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we're going to take it all the way back to the beginning.
All right.
And I hear that time in Gary was on 14th and Hendricks.
Yeah, 15th and Hendricks.
15th
yes,
and Hendricks.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that was my old neighborhood. Actually visited the other day. It was truly a neighborhood. My grandfather lived 2 streets over. It was my home. It's where I lived. It's where I learned everything from friendships to family interactions. The pride of coming from a neighborhood and area like that. My dad being a police officer, my mother a teacher, and then later administrator. It was a great place to grow up at that time.
So I've got a photo here that is, it's got a bit of, it's really awesome to me. And
You're scaring me. Who gave you that?
And this photo to me is just like the epitome of young leadership, right? Like hilarious. It is you. This is awesome.
That is fun. Yeah, that's my street.
That is your street. Those are your folks?
Yes. It was my birthday, and my mother, being the creative person that she always has been and always will be, had us dress up as old women, or older women. Actually, we're actually old now, and had a poster made and everything. And we just walked through the neighborhood saying it was my birthday. Right. I still have that outfit.
You still have that outfit? That's awesome. So one of the things that we started to talk about, even right now as we got started in this conversation, is jazz and like music and why music means so much to you in this background. Can you talk to us a little bit about why music means so much and why jazz specifically stands out?
I think music stands out for me simply because my dad loved the music and it was playing all the time. And every time we were together in the car, especially in my younger years, I remember the first song I probably learned was God Bless the Child by Billie Holiday. And I specifically remember it going over the toll bridge from Gary to Chicago, because my dad and I would go to Chicago a lot. And he would play, WBZZ, I believe. Daddy-O was the DJ. And he would, play hardcore jazz. And so that's what I heard all the time. And so as I grew up, of course, I started liking the music of, the MTV music of our times. And then I kind of gradually got back to it. I think in my senior year of high school, college, started listening to like Coltrane and people like that, and just kind of fell back in love with it and the singers. But it's also the history of jazz too, and what those musicians went through to play their music, their frustrations of not being able to get into certain clubs, or the fact that you were an incredible artist, but you still had to take the back door, or you had to go to a city, but you couldn't stay in that hotel in that area. You'd have to go stay in the Black neighborhood. So the fact that they actually created something amazing that will last forever and is truly of our culture, and the struggles they had to go through, and they still created something amazing, to me is just, I have to honor it every day, and I do. And I think that those standards those guys set from, the early days of Jelly Roll Morton, Fats Waller, all the way through to Dizzy Gillespie, Miles, to Wynton Marsalis, and my boy Terrence Blanchard, and of our own Wes Montgomery, Indianapolis, J.J. Johnson, Slide Hampton, Dave Baker, Noble Sissel.
That's right.
I mean, it's the basis of all the other music that's out right now, and that people continue to study and make and create new things.
So I've heard you talk about how you are a reluctant Indy native, right? So, and we started to talk about this a little bit before, but can you talk to me about what brought you to Indianapolis and maybe what kept you here?
Yeah, what brought me to Indy was my mother's opportunity at the Indiana High School Athletic Association, where she was assistant commissioner for 20 years. She had the option of University of Virgin Islands or Indianapolis, and she chose Indianapolis. And it was a good choice. I mean, the islands in the 70s, there was no internet, not much connection there. And we were still tied to Gary in a big way, and just, visiting back and forth. It was just such a great place to be in Gary, that home and people that I'd known forever. And so to leave that for me was challenging. And Indianapolis, I remember 1977, getting in the car, so excited, saying, Dad, let's go look at the downtown area. Oh my God, you talk about disappointing. Because I was used to going into Chicago and spending a lot of time in that area. Yeah. And Gary at the time, because of the steel mill jobs going away and just the city changing, it was time for us to leave, one, but two, it used to be a very vibrant city. And so then to come to Indianapolis and seeing the downtown area, not really, I'm like, well, where's the excitement? And it was just different, and it just wasn't the same feel. And it's been amazing to see the transformation of the city over the last 20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
And that's what gets me excited. I think it's just funny that I was so negative on the city when I moved here and did not want to stay here for college, ended up staying here for college. And really my whole young adult life was moving to New York, moving to LA, moving to Chicago.
Right.
Then I met my husband, and then my opportunities and my network was here. And that's very valuable. And so I've learned to find places in the city that I really love. And now it's overwhelming. All the things I want to do and all the things I want to get to, I can't because there's not enough time.
Right. Because
there's so many things going on in the city. And that's what gets me excited now, all the young people and the activities that are here.
So thank you for that. And it's just amazing to me because so much of your background, especially some of your professional background, was selling the city, right? Let's talk about Judith the person. How did you go from being like, I'm here because I have to be, or I'm here for whatever reason, to that like, hey, no, other people should be here too?
I truly believe that God has a plan for all of us. And as negative as I was about the city when I was coming up here and could not wait to get out, the fact that I couldn't go to Howard and had to go to Butler, the fact that when my career started, and it was one of the worst times ever to find a job in the early 1990s, and that I had a daughter with me, that I did not want to put my needs before hers. And so deciding to stay here and dig my roots even deeper was important because I was starting a family. And we all know this is a great place to build a family.
That's right.
We were in Washington Township schools, which is where I ended up, at North Central, and very proud of North Central, very committed to North Central, and hoping that my granddaughter, if they decide to stay in the city, attends the Washington Township schools. It's just, it just grew on me, and I was invested and very invested in the sports community as well as the arts community, and obviously the convention business, because the convention business was an exciting time in the 90s and through the 2000s up to this point. And I was knee deep in it in every way. And that's another thing that kind of kept me excited about the city, to see the changes and to show the city off to people that came in and they just were like, wow, this was not what I was expecting.
We talked about earlier coming to Indianapolis in the 70s and seeing the change and transformation that's happened in the community over the last 20, 30 years, more than that. How do you think that leadership has changed over that time? Do you think that the same things that were getting things done, say in the early 70s, are what's needed to get things done now? Maybe talk to us a little bit about how leadership has changed over that time and maybe what the difference is now.
I think the results of 2020, the pandemic, and the George Floyd tragedy, I think leadership in every way, in private, public, have been thinking completely different. I really feel that way, especially when it comes to race and inequities. I think we all know that. Everybody was trying to get a diversity statement and all this in 2020. Well, now the rubber hits the road. Now, the question is with leadership, are you really thinking about the new people that are coming to our city, the people of color that have already been here, those that are unhoused? Do we really have all the resources we need? Are you thinking of this differently? Are you actually talking to someone to figure out, why are they unhoused? It's not the stereotype you thought it was. It could easily be the mother of 10 that I talked to over Thanksgiving break, and that she's simply trying to find housing and has a job. But imagine what it takes to take care of 10 children. And where are those resources that she may need just to get on her feet, just to get a better job, a job with maybe benefits that she can help her children with health care. These things are happening to folks on a day-to-day basis. I don't think in the past that people have realized how close leadership, folks that are having a challenge, affect the city as a whole. We've got to look at things and look at people and look at situations differently. I mean, it's just not what you think it is. And boy, I could get really deep into that, but we'd be here for hours.
Yeah, well, I want to get into it a little bit because I think that one of the things that we've talked about even most recently is the new communities of people that are coming to our city. So in what ways can we be more welcoming to folks coming from different backgrounds? So not just the marginalized folks that have maybe been in our community for years, but the folks that are coming from elsewhere. Can you talk to us a little bit about those challenges as well?
Yeah, and we're seeing more people from Haiti come into our city. We have a large Burmese community, Afghan refugees that have been here. All of these folks are within their own communities, but also need to provide resources to their community on where to go for jobs, for law situations, for healthcare, translation services, everything. So in talking to a lot of the communities, the Latino communities that have been here for a long time, and finding out where there are gaps and how we can connect them to what they need. For instance, I've had conversation with both Afghan community and the Haitian community that want their own resource center. They want to find a place where they can be housed, where their folks can come to them and ask questions and get all the things that they need as a one-stop shop. And if they need to come to city council building for what they need or what have you, or the community justice campus, their organization will be able to help their people get what they need. And that's what we need to look at now, is how this city, continues to change and how we can adapt to what they need. You were talking about new leadership or leadership and the new perspective. And I think Cook Medical is a perfect example of that, of what they're doing on the east side of Indianapolis at 38th and Sheridan, where they are very intentional about building a space in a neighborhood and a community that needs support, needs jobs, need food access, all that, and have created a campus with Goodwill Industries, Eskenazi Health, and Ashley Gervitz over on the northeast side. And it's a game changer. And the fact that they had, with Ms. Darden's leadership, of building that space with 100% minority participation and diversity within building that area. That's incredible leadership. That's a new way of thinking, hiring people within the neighborhood, giving them the resources they need to take it to the next level. Imagine if we had 5 or 6 major corporations within the city of Indianapolis or Indiana decide to move to a certain area in Indianapolis that needs that exact same thing: jobs, access to opportunity, healthcare, education, and better housing, and to really be intentional about that. And if we could do that in all four corners of our city, how we would be able to change everything. That is what 2020, the pandemic, and the lifting of the veil of ignorance when it comes to what's really going on with racism can do. It can change an entire community and lives. And that's a new way of leadership that we need to be focused on and celebrating.
I think that's so important. I really appreciate the intentionality here of taking some time to highlight those folks, because some of the names that you mentioned are young leaders, right? You're talking about Ashley Gervitz, you're talking about some of those other folks. And I've seen you be really intentional about highlighting young leaders, right? That you talk about Murdoch, you talk about Hannah and her work. For me, it's been empowering to see the way that you unapologetically share. I've gotten to work with you over the last several weeks, and I think it really is incredible how you just cut straight through the crap.
Appreciate that.
You really do. Cut straight through the crap and get really to the heart of things. So would that be your advice to young people who are trying to break into leadership, or is that something that's unique to you?
I don't know. I think sometimes I do need to edit myself. I am kind of an open book, but I see where it leads when you're not an open book, when you aren't telling the truth, when you aren't being honest. It always comes back to you. The lies always come out. Honesty is the best policy. And what is there to hide? I think you have to be open. And these days, people need that. They want to believe that we're doing the right thing. And when we're not, people need to call us out, and we need to accept that we're not doing the right thing. I mean, I don't know where that's hard. In the past, that hasn't always been the case. Obviously, we've always had challenges with people in power and politics. I mean, for God's sake, they write books about it, New York Times articles about it, Wall Street Journal articles about it. And you can see that mistrust. I never want to not be trusted. And so I have to be open, because I've been in situations where people haven't been open with me, and it's been devastating. Yeah. And I don't ever want to be that messenger. So
let's talk about legacy then for a bit. I appreciate this as well, because and you may have noticed that your mom was one of the folks that I talked to as I was doing some of this research.
Oh, okay.
And from what I understand, she was, at that time when she was coming into the IHSAA, it was maybe one of one in the country. Like, she was one of the first administrators to work.
Right.
So you have that legacy, but you also have two daughters as well. What does that legacy mean to you to continue on in this leadership?
I think what's great is the fact that I do have these children. I've actually had 4 children. I have my 2 daughters, my son Joseph, who's still in school, and then I had a son that passed away. I think it's wonderful to see my daughters work so hard, and they've watched my mother too. I mean, since they were 0, since they were 1. So we have to stay focused, because it's not just my girls that I'm looking at, it's other folks that I come in contact with, other people that I work with. So you kind of have to always know that people are watching, and you don't know how you're affecting folks. And you gotta treat people with respect and know that you can learn from them as well. And I've learned a lot from a lot of folks. So it's not just, like they say, when you teach, you learn. That's so true.
You have invested your time in developing young leaders, and you've really inspired a whole new cohort of people to get involved in the city in meaningful ways. So why is it important for you for young people to take the lead in these types of things?
Well, I think they're already taking the lead. I think they have created their own opportunities. I mean, you look at Alan and Molly and Butter.
Right.
I mean, if somebody in my generation had done that 20, 30 years ago, look at how far we would be. Kelly Jones and her investments in other Black businesses. And even Black Girls in Charge, Black Women in Charge. I don't know if you know that organization or not. They're very policy focused, very intelligent young women that are, getting their masters and things I can't even pronounce. But they're already starting. They're not even out of college yet. I mean, they're inspiring me. I'll be honest with you. That's, during my time at the Walker, was what was inspiring me, with these young folks coming to me with these ideas and concepts and going, man, this is amazing.
That's awesome. So I wanted to make sure I got you a gift and to say thank you for coming out to talk to us.
Oh, wow.
So our friends at Indie CD and Vinyl have helped me to provide this.
Oh, cool. Can I look at it?
Please.
Okay.
Please check
Let me
it
see
out.
what it is. Woo, kind of blue. I think I have 2 or 3 of these already.
I was thinking when I got it, I was like, she has to already
No,
have it.
oh yeah, but this is the standard. This is when people ask me what to start with, this particular album right here is the one. And I thank you. This is so thoughtful.
Well, thank you for being an ambassador for jazz and for continuing to tell stories.
Of course.
The stories that are so important for our community. So thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I also want to say thank you to everyone who's been a part of Straight Up, especially our sponsor, RNDC Group, to our friends at Innovative. I'd like to thank our hosts for today, Parlor Public House. And they're open for you all to come in and check them out, both for the working day and in the evening. So that's pretty awesome. I'd like to say a special thank you to our bartender, Keith. Special thanks and shout out to our new friends at Indie CD and Vinyl and Broad Ripple Avenue. Definitely go check them out. They have a great selection of jazz, and a ton of other music in there as well. So with that, we'll close out a fantastic 2022 and wish everyone a happy new year in 2023 as we continue these conversations into the next year.
Yes, happy 2023.
Thank you for being here.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.